Welcome and good evening. Hope all is well out there in wherever you are. Forgot that you have to change some settings in order to get some audio out. We're getting there. It's all good. Welcome, Jeff from Strumwood Guitars. Tonight is going to be kind of a chill night, as it normally is. I normally do kind of the boring-ish jobs at night that don't require all the full mental focus. So, in the sense of I don't do full structure or anything like that. But what we're going to be doing probably is a series of guitars, electronics jobs. I've got some pickup swaps. I've got one that's on the bench right now that just has some noisy pots, so it might be cleaning, it might be that they actually need to be replaced. I don't know. This is an older guitar, so that's obviously an issue. I've got a couple other ones in the back, so I don't know, I'll just kind of go through some electronics. I think tonight just kind of sit and not have to move around and function. Some of the other lives that we've been doing, I've been kind of jumping all over the place, and I'm not very good in the kitchen. It's that boiling pot kind of thing where you've got multiple things going on at the same time. So what we will do is just kind of get started in here. As always, welcome to those of you that have tuned in. Please feel free to comment and join the party, and we can kind of do all the things together there. So that is basically what we're looking at, and kind of getting right into it. I've also moved the camera really close. We've talked about this a couple times. So I have a camera that normally hangs out on the top. I'm not going to do the bench behind me because I'm not doing any of that work tonight. It's just going to be here on the bench. So I've kind of moved the second camera, and are you ready? Whoa. That's kind of cool. So it's just obviously a little bit more close up, and you can kind of see what I'm doing here in the electronics, and we'll kind of play around with it depending on obviously what the job is. So there are a couple that I'm doing here that are going to be, in this case, we're going to open up the cavity, start messing around with the pots, start seeing if we can kind of clean that up a little bit. And then we do have some pickup swaps on another one. It's like a Les Paul style, another Les Paul style guitar. And then we also have a Rickenbacker. If you're not familiar with Rickenbackers, they are a very bizarre guitar. They've been made very classic from the Beatles and so many other artists, but it's got a really interesting wiring in it. It's called Rico sound, and it's kind of like a stereo output, but it's not. Anyway, I have two guitars from the same gentleman that wants his second guitar to be the same as his first. So, but exactly. And so he thinks that the Rickenbacker actually got modded as well. So that's always fun. I always love challenging myself to see those. So we'll have to open up the first one, kind of write down a schematic, see what's going on, and then see if we can replicate it in the second one. So, this is kind of the fun thing. I always say this, electronics is twofold, because there is obviously so many options, and the last stream that we did, there's so many options and mods that you can do to your guitar that dramatically changes just kind of the playability of it. And the last stream that we did, we actually just did a simple thing from changing the pots from 1 meg to 250K. I actually was speaking with my client today, and he was over the moon with it. He thinks it sounds great, new caps, all that kind of stuff. So it basically kind of, he enjoys the guitar more, which is great. That's kind of the whole point of why we can do electronics. It's a pretty cheap mod, even if you are giving it to a guitar tech to fix. But if you're at home and you've got kind of a soldering iron that you want to do some of these kind of mods on your own, whether you're changing the wiring, whether you're changing even a flip. So we'll talk about that when we get into the Les Paul wiring. But even if you want to kind of do a very basic, very common Les Paul mod, you can do that. And it doesn't take a lot of energy, it doesn't take a lot of time, and quite frankly, you can do it with a cheaper soldering iron and stuff. I would recommend getting a nicer one, but depends on what everyone is working with, which is totally understandable. So yeah, that's kind of what tonight is planned for. As I just kind of set up at the same time here, and I also have, and I just realized as I was kind of hitting go, that I didn't actually put a noise filter on this, but I have a little Line 6 Spider, whatever, but it's just more of an amp that's on my bench that I just plug into, make sure there's signal, and if I have a client that comes over and actually wants to try it and do something. When we had Marcus come over with his pedal board a couple weeks ago, he actually was plugging in, I got some amps on the bottom that he was plugging in, so nicer amps that you don't have to hear that. But as far as kind of just signal and checking and making sure I have output and stuff, that works great. And so there's also a headphone port on that because it's full of tone. And I've actually got that coming in here too, so it's a little noisy because the lights are plugged in. But anyway, we'll try and see if we can diagnose that when we get to that point as well. So actually, that's kind of exactly where we are. So we're gonna get going here on this one. You can kind of seeing, feel as though it's perhaps peaking a little bit. It's showing that it's peaking, but it's not really. So I don't know if that's just that signal or not. But anyway. Okay, we will kind of flip this over. Let me grab my stool. You'd think I would be ready to go. It's over here. One sec. One sec. Is this good? Yeah, we'll try it. We'll also switch this up. All right, so let's move this camera down so you can see what's going on, or rather, it's just to see my face on what's going down. I might have to move these chairs. I just got these chairs and they are very comfortable, much better than a stool, but they might be a little too low for this, so we'll try for a little bit. Okay, so the first thing that we got here is this Les Paul. I believe it's kind of mid-70s. It's cool. It's definitely seen some things. So I've actually just finished doing the setup on it and putting new strings on and getting rid of a lot of corrosion and stuff on the, yeah, I'm too low, I don't like this. A lot of corrosion and stuff on the bridge and the screws and stuff, and so basically on the home stretch with that, just as though I have a little bit of adjustments to make, but I don't want to go too far in just in case I have to go crazy. But if we plug this in, we should be able to hear it. Bear with audio issues for just a sec. Haha. Okay, so yeah, you're not hearing a lot of whining actually coming from the... Oh, there you go. So that kind of static key stuff. Is very common in an older guitar. There's a couple different things that you can do without even getting into repairing the guitars. So the first thing is that you can literally just wipe it. So if you're not familiar with the potentiometer, so the volume pots are in here, it's basically just a blade, has a couple points on it. Oh, can we do this? And when you're kind of sweeping from side to side, you're really just, there's a wiper that's inside that's going from one side to the other, and that's what the connection is, you know, physically. So But if you just have this sitting inside of your guitar and you just actually take the pots and just go back and forth a whole bunch of times, 9 times out of 10 that actually does the trick. Especially a guitar that's been sitting, something that's older, there's dust, there's all that kind of stuff that's in there. But if you just kind of wipe them and go back and forth, you will be able to clean a lot of that stuff out. It's a pretty common, like I said, it's a pretty common issue that you can run into, and that's on all the pots. Now, when you're doing this, you can also feel if there's some sort of problem. So some of these are quite tight, and now it's starting to break up a little bit. And then that one is very, very loose. So there's 2 different parts to that. You can actually change the resistance, not in forms of impedance, but as far as the physical wipe. You can get some that are quite light on the fingers. You can get some that are really tough to move. And that's just a personal preference. Some people, when they're playing, they like to just be able to roll it with their pinky. Some people don't. So, yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on what you are playing and how you're going to be playing it. If you wanted to change that kind of aspect. But when it comes down to the grime and the grit or dirty pots, there's obviously, there's a couple different things that you can do. You can just wipe them back and forth. You can use spray, which is what I'm going to do now. The client actually said I'm okay with just spraying them, trying to keep it kind of as vintage as possible. So that's a nice thing, is because we don't necessarily have to replace them just because they're old. You actually have the ability of kind of playing with them a little bit. The toggle switch is quite finicky, so we'll spray that as well and see if we can kind of clean it up. And then we will take a look on the inside. I'm gonna actually do that first, just to see if there's anything like physically that we can see that there's an issue on. So we will just open this stuff up, see what's going on. And on these older guitars too, I'm doing a little out of frame, but what I actually do is when I take the screws out, I don't just throw them into a bin. I actually put them in position on how I pull them out of the pickguard, because especially over the years, you know, someone throws the wrong size screw in there, but it kind of creates its own pot. So I actually place these screws on my bench out of the way, but in the same orientation as I'm kind of pulling them out. Just because I have run into issues where I've cross-thread things and stuff, and that's I keep saying it, and as everyone else that's on here kind of, you know, explaining their experience, they all say the same thing. You that's what you learn from. You learn from experience. And if you don't, or you don't want to, oh, wonderful. Or if you don't want to run from experience, then you might be running into some issues down the road. These are always fun. So this is actually a grounding plate that are inside, and I won't get on my soapbox. Some people really like these, some people don't. The new versions, which actually is the guitar that we might be getting to later tonight, is actually kind of the re-version of that. So it's a 2015, the 2015-2016 Gibson era was everything that was on those plates, like a grounding plate, just so that you didn't have to ground the pots. But they are quite prone to getting dirty and filthy, which I can see inside of this. It is. And it kind of just turns into like a big dish, right? So, okay, let's go. Not against gravity here. There we go. Yeah, so just like that. So that's the actual plate that's inside that you would see in some versions of, obviously in older guitars, this is how Gibson used to do it. And what that's doing is that's preventing you from having to run. If you're familiar with a wiring schematic, I don't have a schematic, or sorry, I don't have a screen share set up on my computer. But if you would have like a schematic when we're looking at actually drawing up wiring, you would actually see normally a ground going from pot to pot, and all that's doing is keeping kind of all that buzz out of the guitar. What the grounding plate does, at least in this era, is that it was designed to keep that grounding together. So all of the pots, everything that's connected, as long as you connect it to something on that pot, on that plate, you're going to be good. They also have this kind of quick connect, they call it, in the center, which was for kind of leads. So the toggle switch is actually running to this. Alright, so yeah, there's a lot of grime in these connections. So looking on those leads, which is a little ugly. Actually, it's very ugly. And they're also loose, and that's another drawback when you have these plates. So if you have this grounding plate and the pot is loose, I don't know if you can actually see it wiggling in here, but like I haven't loosened anything and I can move this completely. So it's actually coming off of the plate. Therefore, it's not grounding, and then it creates buzz and hum and all that kind of stuff. So that's also not a good premise. That's a huge, I guess, con against these plates. The concept is okay. I like the concept of them. Personally, I'm kind of impartial to them, but I don't like the ones that have all the quick connects. That was the 2015 era. Like there's actually circuits running through the boards. Those I'm not a fan of, but these plates, not the end of the world, in my opinion. So there is some really, really gross soldering happening in here. But everything works, and the client would like it to stay together if we can. But that's pretty evident that there might have been someone messing around inside of that. So what I'm looking at, let's see if I have enough hands here. So this is one thing that I'm looking at, is just this huge mound of solder. Where are we? Right here. And it's coming up the whole way. It's grounding to the top. It's touching like almost inside of the pot, which just means that the whole thing is always going to be grounded. And then we've got it, there's some there, and then also this huge blob over here as well. I mean, it works, it's connected, there's a signal, it's great, but when you're on stage and doing your thing, you know, over time, as this is showing, it really starts to causing issues on you, which is kind of the opposite of what your guitar should be doing. So what we'll do is we'll just kind of clean that up a little bit. I am going to turn my gun on. I'm not going to go to, I have a variable soldering iron so I can change the temperature. I'm just going to go to I'm not going to do anything on the ground. We'll clean that up a little bit just by kind of getting rid of the excess. I was looking for those earlier. All right, how exciting, eh? How exciting. Now, kind of what I was saying on earlier, though, it's funny because it's like doing electronics jobs like this to your guitar, not me personally. To your guitar is a great way of changing the mod. You can change different sounds. You can change the way the pots react with one another. You can change the values, which change the sound, all that kind of stuff. But when you're trying to chase gremlins, and now this becomes a little personal, so you're chasing an issue of how come it doesn't sound good, or how come, you know, this is happening. That is in part of one of the things that can sometimes be very difficult, is to find that area on where there's an issue. When you've been doing a lot of soldering, I remember, I was just going to say, when you've been doing a lot of soldering and you've come across a lot of problems, either of someone else or even ones that you've created, then you kind of start adding that to your catalog, if you will. So one story that stands out to me that I will never ever forget, but kind of my whole point on this, is I was doing, actually it was a Gibson guitar, it was a Flying V, long story, it was in the music store, it went through a lot of different people's hands, and I replaced a volume pot, but I wasn't paying attention, and I had my gun too hot, and I'm applying solder, and I'm trying to get it, I didn't pre-tin, and I just had solder on top of it, and it just kept doing kind of what I was just showing you, that huge blob. But what happened is it actually got on the underside of it, and it was shorting out the pot the entire time. So it never worked, and the customer kept getting upset, kept bringing this guitar back. I had other things to do. I didn't want to do this one, and so forth. This just kept continuing, and then I realized, and I was like, okay, fine, that's it. I'm replacing everything, and I pulled it all out, and then I noticed this huge mound of solder. But looking at it from this view, you wouldn't see that. But it was one of those things where, because I was like fed up, it's like, okay, fine, this is what I'm gonna do. And that's when I found my problem. But the point of my story is that now that's like literally the first thing I look for. So if there's a weird grounding that I can't quickly identify, then that's the first thing I look at, is because I did that. I made that problem. Obviously I've solved it, which is great, but that chasing gremlin stuff is what can sometimes really get annoying, is when you're trying to find that problem, you have no idea where it's coming from. So anyway, I digress. Yeah, all I'm going to kind of do is just heat this up a little bit. We're just going to get rid of some of this excess solder, which is not necessary. It doesn't really make a difference, but it's one of those things where it's not going to take us a terrible amount of time on our end, and if we can kind of make it a little bit better, then we might as well. You can also smell it too. So cold solder joints is another really popular thing, and that's generally actually because there's too much solder. You'd think the more solder you put on there, the better the connection, but that's not always the case. One of my next investments actually is like a proper solder fume hood, because the stuff can really harm you, especially the older stuff. Not saying that any solder is really good to be inhaling, but the older stuff can really mess with you. So one of the other things I have been finding myself doing, like when I'm wiring up a guitar, is that this is a pretty common thing too. I don't know if you can quite see the reflection on it, but the tabs, like what's going to the ground on the back of the pot, is actually bent right over onto the pot, and then there's this huge blob of solder. And again, I used to do that myself, but what I've been doing is actually taking like the lead from, say, a cap, like one of these guys, and running like a little jumper to the back. So it's a nice kind of straight, cleaner bend, and then I don't have all of this solder mess to deal with. If that made any sense at all. I normally throw out the ugly ones, so I don't think I even have an example. Actually, I should put my garbage beside me. Especially if you're going to be doing a bunch of wiring and stuff, all those little cable ends. I don't like to leave anything, as I always say, I don't like to leave anything on my bench, just because it's going to make things nasty. And exactly what I was just talking about, I just did. It's okay, we're cleaning it all up, but just to kind of show you, if I can, where did my handy pointing device go? So when we're looking at this pot, and now we're looking at this lug right here, yeah, the plate's a little reflective, but there's a big blob of solder right here, and that's actually shorting the one lead out to the whole pot. Now in this case, in this exact case, it's actually not really hurting us because that is the ground lead. But if that was your hot, so that's where your volume's coming in, or your pickup, or whatever you're connecting to it, and that's connecting to the ground plate, it's not going to work because it's going to ground, and that's going to be no output. It's going to be no signal. The other thing that's fun about electronics is you sound really nerdy. But I'm okay with it. I'm pretty used to it. Sounding like a nerd, that is. Do I have any of those jumps? I should. Yeah, so what I'm referring to, so these are just like a tone cap. So this is an orange Sprague cap that you would normally use for your tone switch. But these long leads, first of all, they're hard. It's not a soft, really flimsy one, but you cut off the majority of that. So I actually like to save them, and I have just this kind of little bucket of legs, if you will, and then I just kind of cut them into place. And it just makes things a little bit cleaner. Again, it's whatever. It's a personal thing. I sit in here and talk to nobody, and but that's kind of also half the reason, you know, why you get those jobs, is because you can make it look a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer than what it was. And then I also enjoy just being able to say, yeah, fix the problem. Here was the issue. Versus the, oh, I don't know. I have unfortunately seen a lot of people, actually I can see you should be able to see the difference, yeah. It's still quite reflective. It's because of this plate, it's shining everything back at us, but I'll show you the difference of a good solder joint. Of course, now the pressure's on. Oh, not quite hot enough, that's why. I don't want to burn the back of the pot here. Also helps if I'm on that. Come on, you know you want to. Oh, I can see a wax on the back of this. Well, that's not going to help anything. All right, let's lift that up. We got a little bit of flux, which is this yellow garbage, really. It's just... But I can actually see a little bit of... a wee bit of wax, so we just kind of clean that up a little bit. I have come across, the last couple of years, of course, have been a lot of kit guitars, people that are doing their own guitar repairs and stuff at home, which I absolutely love. I think that's a fantastic thing to do. It's a great hobby. It's a great way of learning how to do all these mods, whether it's, you know, whether it is a kit guitar, but then you can start doing it on your own guitars, excuse me, things like that. But unfortunately, especially when it comes to electronics, poor soldering technique can really hurt the guitar. And that is one thing that I see a lot of, is especially when it comes to grounding the pot, so you're connecting it, is there's a couple different things that you can do to get a nice clean solder joint. So hopefully we did enough work here. It looks like we have. Rather than this huge glob of solder on the top, because that causes issues. I've also seen people take sandpaper. I used to do that when I first started this, taking sandpaper and scratching the whole back of the pot to make something to stick to. but it also was because I was realizing that I didn't have my gun hot enough. There we go. All right, so that one was a little tricky. So we'll clean that off. But now looking at the difference of that, bring that up a little bit closer to you. So now what we've done is added this little dot on here. Where are we? Right here. So now it's a little dot on top rather than this huge mound of solder that just doesn't need to be there. So is that going to be the issue on why it's scratching? No, it's not. But the other thing is too, is that you can actually hit that from inside now, and I've got some contact cleaner that we'll do in just a sec. And that is how you get it in there. So if you don't have the ability because it's covered in solder, well then that's also not going to be beneficial to you. So that's kind of why I'm spending the extra couple of minutes here right now to do this, and hoping that it works. So that one looks good. That one has definitely been replaced. You can just see the difference of the back of the pot as well. You can see how shiny that is versus the other three that aren't quite as shiny. And then in here we've just got some old solder joints. So a lot of times I actually just heat it up. I don't want to start messing with this one. This one I think is this one's gonna start causing us some problems. But I actually think that one needs to be replaced anyway, so I'm gonna leave that one for the time being, and we'll see if we fix these three. And I'm also gonna open up the toggle switch, because the toggle switch is actually quite dirty as well. So a lot of times what you can do on these cables, if you're getting in and going to this level, is just use a solder sucker. And if you're not familiar with a solder sucker, it literally is a solder sucker. It's like a little vacuum, just finger pressure. So you heat it up, and then you you heat up the solder, take the heat off, and then you hit the button, sucks up all the old solder, and then you can throw in some new stuff, and it just looks quite a bit different. And generally, that's what we call a cold solder joint. So if it's got a bad connection on one of your lugs or on the back of the pot, it's not creating that connection that you're looking for. So that can cause all sorts of issues. Again, not suggesting that's going to be fixing our problem here. I think we've got a little bit more problems than that. Definitely helping. Scooch too hot, so let's turn that down a little bit. All right. Give that just a second for it to cool down, and then we'll jump on the next lead. My Canadian heritage coming in strong there. Now that one looks good as well. Oh yeah, we have all sorts of problems here. We have a broken cap. We have a broken lead. Yeah, this is a mess. These are also DiMarzio pots, which obviously Gibson would not be putting in their guitars. So I can see on the back it says DiMarzio, and I can just tell by the solder job that this isn't someone that would be doing this on a regular basis. So we're just going to go ahead and replace that one because this is a mess. There becomes a point where you just know it's not really worth attempting to fix, and that's where this one is. Now, the only issue that we may run into, and we'll find that out in just a second. So I just gotta remember that. Oh, that's our toggle. Yeah, that's easy. The only thing that we have to double check is to see if the pot can reach. So that's another con on these plates. So if you think of the Les Paul body, you've got the actual wood thickness, and then you have this plate which is adding thickness, and then the spacing. So you actually need a long shaft. I do have long shaft pots, but you do need a longer shafted guitar pot. The only issue is that the other guitar that we're talking about, I think I need them on that guitar, so I just have to make sure I have enough. Yeah, this one I'm not going to worry about. So I'll just add more solder, just heat it up, just to get it out of here. Oh, yeah, you can certainly smell the oldness. All right, so pickups out. Pots are off. Let's get that out. So if you are just joining us, we're having some scratchy pot issues. Very, very common guitar issue. Yeah, so that's funny, because as I was kind of doing the demonstration at the beginning, like with the speed rolling, those DiMarzios, I can't remember what they call them, but that's what they're known for, is being quicker under the fingers. But yeah, I don't remember what. Oh geez, I don't remember what they call that off the top of my head. I want to say like a quick pot, fast pot, speed pot, something like that. But anyway, it feels a little bit different. So I do have Gibson branded pots. I generally use CTS in my shop. I used to use. Oh yeah, see, this is. There's a nut on the inside of this plate, isn't there? Yeah, 100% there is. It's funny, like every single time that I have like gone live and we're like, oh yeah, this will be cool. We'll just do a quick little job here. We'll do a quick little job here, and then it turns into this like, I don't say nightmare. It's not quite that bad, but it turns into this like much longer, unnecessary voyage to get there. And now we have another one. So in order to switch one volume pot in your standard wiring without this plate, you can just pop it out and all is well. However, in this one, yeah, you can also see all the grime. I don't know if you can actually see it, but you can. You can just see it's old. It's got its age. It's an older guitar. So it's totally normal, totally expected, but it doesn't help our situation. So we're just going to have to loosen all of these and hope that we have enough lead. The only issue generally with trying to do this is the bridge ground, because it's generally pretty tight. But again, silver lining is that once we take this plate out, because we're taking everything out now, we actually have the ability of cleaning the top part too, which is, I'm calling it silver lining. I really don't think it is silver lining, because I don't want to be doing this much work on these, but it is what it is. But also, again, to be frank, in order to get these clean, if they are scratching stuff, you need to give them a good cleaning. You need to make sure that there's no dust in there, there's no debris, anything like that. So yeah, these need to come up perfectly level, because they can't, actually we should be okay to get it out. So it's not quite as bad, but I have to take the jack out as well. We'll actually just loosen it. Holy, that one actually might be glued. That's spinning all right. Yeah, one thing after another, eh? It's okay, it's okay. It's fine. Again, I'm taking my screws out in orientation just so I know which way they're coming out. So I don't have to worry about cross-threading or putting the wrong size screw in. There's a prime example. So there's two totally different screws that are coming out of that. I know it seems small and not a big deal, but especially on these older guitars, if you put the wrong size screw in, so if you put the smaller thread in, it's not going to hold, and then you put that bigger one in, and now you're cutting new wood. You can split it. This one obviously has been played, but you can split lacquer. It's awful. Just line it up. Just line it up. But that's just my 10 cents. Oh my goodness, that jack is disgusting as well. Well, we'll see what's going on. And also broken. Yeah, I had a feeling that was actually going to be one of the other things I was going to talk about is, okay, so the other thing that we can do is we can clean the jack out and so forth, but we're going to do that anyway. This is probably one of my favorite tools. I don't actually remember what they call it, but it's the Frank Ford version for sure. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this jack is like totally split. How am I gonna get that off now? The internal threads are just spinning. Okay, so I'm replacing this jack anyway, so I'm not terribly worried. I'll try with soft pliers first though, but... And that worked, nice. But yeah, so this guy is, yeah, I don't remember what they call it, but it's the jack, the gripper, anyway, it's the jack gripper, and it's basically got this little washer on the end of it, and you pop it into the jack, and when you go one way or the other, it actually holds the internal jack. So if you've ever tried to thread it, and that's another, you know, you try and turn it, and then what's happening to the jack on the inside is this just keeps spinning and spinning and spinning. Now you're breaking the leads, yada yada. So this is actually a really cool tool because you can use it, and then if you have like a flat wrench or something like that, then you can just loosen it. So it's always the right tool for the job situation, but yeah, we will replace that jack because that's gross and it's broken, so that's not helping us at all. So now that there's nothing in the way, this should be able to pop up. There it is, and now we have the pot. So yeah, so these are definitely tall pots, or long shaft they call them. Do I have a standard? I was just holding that one. Where did that one go? I mean, I understand that you get the point, but I'll show you when I take it out. Actually, that one doesn't seem to be moving either. The other thing I really dislike about doing these jobs is just how grimy and gross you get. Like, my hands are all, I can just feel it. It's like chalk on my hands. Just all the old. All right, so here's the two things that we can see on this pot. So first of all, just as far as the long shaft versus short shaft, you can see there's quite a difference there. And that's just to give us the extra depth. Again, we're going through the cavity of the body, we're going through this plate, we're going through the jack, all that kind of stuff. So there is a big difference there. The other thing is look at the backs of these two pots. So obviously there's nothing on this one, but it is nice and clean. And that one, not as much. There's a lot going on there. So yeah, that's a huge mound of solder in there, and it's totally unnecessary. So the nice thing is rather than having to clean it up, we're just gonna get rid of it. The other thing, and I don't know, I'm on a webcam. These are webcams here rather than like a nicer camera, which I have just acquired, by the way. Anyway, you can kind of see this part right here, which is another thing that I see very, very often, is there's a hole right here. And this is the dent on the inside of the pot. But basically, the only thing that's really important is that that's open. So if you're just blobbing all this solder on top of it, you're going to actually pour solder inside of that, and then it leads the connections, and then it just doesn't work, which is kind of what's happening here. I think there's a couple issues on that one. But you can also see like the main assembly. Like that's not supposed to happen. So anyway, that's going to fix our problems. I can tell you just by feeling it. So I'm going to go grab a long, well, there you go. I can take the whole thing apart. Look at that. That's not supposed to happen. So I'm just going to go see on the long ones. Into bleaching my hands. All right. So yeah, so I've got this. I've got this guy here. This is my. It's actually my last tall shaft Gibson pot, but hopefully the other one doesn't need it. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to order some special pots. Of course, the other thing that you can do is to route out that wood. You can see this has been done quite a few times. At 1229, someone actually did that. It's an interesting label. Yeah, it's so funny how I was like, oh yeah, this will be quick. Like this guitar is done. I just had to like clean, because he's like, yeah, just spray the electronics and we'll be good. It's like, sorry, not true. Oh, of course I threw that pot out. Well, I don't know where it went. I got a little excited to throw it in the garbage. I'll just grab another pot, or another nut, sorry. But we'll throw a nut on here because to hold it to this plate. And we're breaking off this one. I will say though that like doing electronics jobs is probably one of the more satisfying jobs, just because you can really chill and enjoy your job well done. Oh no, that did not just happen. Everything's falling apart on me tonight. It's an omen. I was actually supposed to be casted in an Omen movie. random trivia. At one point in my childhood, I was a child model. Anyway, I'm going to stop there. That is a true story. So, one thing when you're tightening anything to like a pot, you don't have to like that. Those ones were incredibly tight, and they don't need to be. That's not necessary. So, actually, I'm gonna need another one of those. Oh my gosh! Actually. So the little divider that's holding all of my nuts. Yeah, see, and now as I go to show you, it fell apart on me. All right, well, I'm not gonna worry about that right now. I'm just gonna grab another nut. Anyway, I was gonna say it fell in and now I have an issue. We'll worry about it later. Hopefully everyone is great out there. Kind of wish I wasn't doing this guitar still. I gotta be honest with you. Like I said, these are annoying when you're like, oh yeah, I'll be super quick, super fast. And of course, also if you're like quoting on your time. So I have flat rates for everything. So some jobs I'm really quick at, and some jobs I know that they're gonna take me a little bit longer. But it needs to come down a little bit more. But if that's how you're billing, and you're like, oh, it should take me 30 seconds, which spraying pots takes about 30 seconds. Having to rip apart an entire cavity just to change one pot, it's gonna take you a little bit longer than that. It's okay though, we have each other. Now, is that doing the trick? Are we good now? Are you happy? You happy? I think we're good. I think we're good. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. Okay, so just before we go and finalize all that, I just wanted to make sure that my spacing was good. And just take a quick look and see if there's anything, gross. I'm using like a hard bristle brush, just kind of breaking off any of the stuff that's on there. Obviously, this is not the contact point of the inside of the pot if you're trying to clean it from dust and noise, which is what we are attempting to do. You actually get that from the back side here. But it, again, it's one of those things like while you're in there, spend the extra minute and clean the undercarriage, you know what I'm saying? Just throw this on. Apparently, possibly, there we go. This one went here. Actually, I'm gonna clean the top of this real quick. Just kind of wipe off that, just this little kind of dirt buildup. I'm not gonna do anything crazy, but Actually, another really common issue with dust getting into pots, especially on like Strats or Strat-esque style guitars. So you've got the big sheet of plastic when you buy it from the store, if you bought it new. Get rid of that. Go through the effort, take the knobs off, do everything you need to do, loosen the pots, take the plate off of the guitar, get rid of all of that plastic, because what that plastic does is it actually somehow turns into some sort of weird vortex, and it actually grabs all of the dust and attracts it to the pots. And it's amazing how much of like it does this. It starts, I don't know if you can really see that, but it starts to actually like discolor the guitar and stuff, because obviously it's discolor in the sense of like it's clean and the rest of it is not. But yeah, anyway, it's one of those things where it generally drives most guitar techs crazy, actually, because it's a very easy thing for the average person to do, even if you don't know anything about guitar repair. So when you buy your new guitar, is take it home and take that plate off. It will just make someone down the line happier. Because, you know, you get that, my pots are really scratchy or whatever. I've had it since it was new and it never did that, and now it does. And also just a note about soldering iron safety, if you will. So if you're going to be a long time without, I should have probably turned my gun off, to be honest with you. I don't normally keep my gun on all day. I try to get the job ready until I need to get my soldering iron, and then I'll turn my gun on. And it's just to protect the tip. I don't have to worry about it drying out or oxidizing on me and stuff like that. So anyway, everyone has their own workflow, but for me personally, I like to just turn it off. But you do you. If you like to keep it on all day, go for it. I wish you luck. The other thing that I'm finding is that it's difficult to fill the gaps of things to say when you're taking out a Les Paul grounding plate. So there's another yes. So, but right off the bat, you can already see the difference. I mean, obviously it's new versus say 50 years old, but that's the same thing with all the contacts on the inside. You can see a huge difference there, right? So. Cleaner. As that's heating up, I grab my tool and I grab my solder. And then I take the heat off, and you just give it an extra second. Don't blow on it. That's another common mistake. All right, and And then, we're going to switch that jack out in just a second. Seeing if I can get this cap over here. Oh yeah, I can. So I don't need ground, so I'm going to turn that off. Or, sorry, turn it down a little bit. Cool, cool. It's pretty riveting stuff. But this was also probably the worst sounding pot as far as just grounding issues and so forth. And now that we kind of pulled it out and took a look, we can see why that is. So. Cool. All right. There we go. Okay. I'm feeling a little bit more upbeat than this. So I'm just going to go through Stream Beats and find something else. I say this every time, but honestly, this is such a cool concept. Just have your thing. Just here, play these tunes. This will probably be a little, it's going to be more so, but I'm okay with it. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. So that goes there, that goes there, that goes there. And that is our ground. So I'm going to grab another one of these jacks. I forgot about the ground. A little bit cleaner when you do that first. It's okay. It's okay. We're good. We're good. It's not an issue. So if I can actually get to it, there we go. Oh my gosh. All right, doesn't want to cooperate. I have the guitar on a weird angle just so you can kind of see what's going on, and that's causing gravity issues. So I'll do this end first. That. So the other thing sometimes that I'll do as well is that I'll actually run the ground cable from the pickup right through into that jack as well, and it just makes it a cleaner connection rather than having all these cables and little jumpers going everywhere. But it's just, again, it's one of those things. I thought that I was really good at soldering, and then I saw other people's jobs and so forth, you know, online, and other friends and stuff that I follow, and I was like, wow, this was years ago. And then I would also have these weird issues, and I didn't realize that it was all associated to just good solder joints. But it is quite important to actually have a nice lead in there. So I think we're okay there with the exception of the jack. And what's going on with this? Seeing electrical tape in an old guitar also always scares me. You never know what you're going to find. Actually, in that case, there's nothing. So we'll see if we can get that. Where did my device go? So we'll see if we can actually get that. Excited to get this one finished so I can go wash my hands. I can just feel it. I don't like it. I don't like it. That off, and then we'll just grab a new jack and throw it in there. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. So yeah, so far we've placed a broken pot and a broken jack, and that should be all we really need to do. If not, that I'm throwing this. No, just. That should be all we need to do. And it's funny too, like I always think about this kind of stuff because there's a lot of people, especially if you go online and start looking at forums and stuff, which that's a whole other topic. But there's a lot of people that will start talking about, because it's a vintage guitar, you need to keep the vintage pots in there, you need to keep the old pots, and it's like, sure, like I understand where you're coming from. You want this to be authentic, but speaking as a guitar player, the electronics don't work. So, but there's people that will do everything they can to save those original pots, and I mean, you know, I'm not here to judge, but if that's what you want to do, then great. But you're much easier off to just replace it, put a better connection in there. This particular client likes to he actually flips these guitars, so he's a collector and stuff, which is totally different because he's not holding them on to his own purpose. And he even actually said, like, if it was my guitar, I would say get rid of the plate and stuff, which I would strongly encourage. And it's only for the simple reason of, honestly, is for repair. You saw how long that actually took for us to get in there to replace a volume pot, which just so that it can have a grounding plate. Like, it's not actually giving us any sort of advantage over your standard kind of wiring job. So but again, teach their own, right? So there we go. So there is a new pot, there's a new jack. You know, that took us 30 seconds, which is great. And now we have, hopefully, eliminated a lot of our problems. And I think the rest of them we can do Actually, I should have, I'm just thinking about it, before I tightened all this stuff up, I should have actually tightened them onto the plate again, but too late now. Don't think about it. I'll run that through the hole. That's what she said. Run this onto the back side. Cool. And it's always best too to see and make sure that these actually line up on you. The holes, that is. Because sometimes the plate goes one way, and I always try it the other way and see if it fits better, and there you go. So the first way it probably would have lined up, but I can actually feel like the indents on that working, so it goes like this. That's what I'm looking for. So while I'm underneath here, oh, I still gotta look at the toggle switch. Yeah, geez, Louise. But I know the jack works, so I'm gonna put the jack back in. So a little trick that I always do, let me see so I can see what you're looking at here. A little trick that I always like to do when I'm putting screws in, see if I can actually get this at your angle. Maybe not on this particular screw. So one thing I always like to do is I put the screw in and I actually screw backwards. So talking about not counters, and when you screw backwards, you'll actually see the screw lift and then you can feel it. And now you know that it's actually going right back into the same threads. You're not gonna cross thread it. You're not gonna run into anything like that. So yeah, I just put the screw in like the hole, then I go backwards. There you go. And I don't know if you can actually even, oh, obviously you can't see that, but yeah, you can actually even see it drop, which is crazy. You can actually hear it too. And now that's just it finding its groove and exactly where the threads line up. And now I'm not cross-threading, I'm not causing any issue. Especially on older, drier wood, when you start doing that kind of stuff, you can, when you do start cross-threading, now you're just making that hole larger. And now the screw doesn't fit because it's ripped into new wood that isn't necessarily there. And now all of a sudden you're filling a screw hole. And it's just something as simple as taking your time and remembering where the screw came from and putting it in the right way and all that kind of stuff. Like, I know all this stuff sounds crazy, but I'm coming at you from someone who does this for a living. I've got 35 other guitars sitting behind me that I need to get out. So me having to sit here and go, oh shoot, I went too hard and I unscrewed or whatever, like, I don't really have time / don't need to do that. So that's good. Those are good. We're going to take a look at the switch in just a second, but the other thing that we'll do is we'll use our contact cleaner. There's all sorts of different things that you can use. I like to use, this stuff is, it's MG Chemicals, but there's quite a few different companies that make this stuff. Really all you're looking for is something with silicone. Oh, we're going this way. So this is a contact cleaner with silicone. And that kind of stuff it's safe on plastic too, so this also works on like audio mixing boards and stuff, but it cleans and lubricates contact controls and switches, which is really what you're looking for when you're doing this kind of stuff, because inside it's just literally they call it a wiper, and it's literally just wiping. So when you're twisting the pot, it's just wiping across. So we don't want anything that's in there, like WD-40 is not something we want to be putting inside of our pot, just because that's going to cause all sorts of issues. So you just put a little bit in there, and then you just start. All I'm doing on the other side is just kind of wiping back and forth, and I can actually feel it working out. And then a lot of times too, you can actually see whatever's stuck inside there, especially if you're doing it like this, like with a cavity open and stuff. You'll actually see some stuff come out if there's anything like physically stuck in there, like hair or whatever. Animal fur, things like that. But this also will give you kind of a cleaner contact, and you can fix all sorts of issues that you have in there. Oops, that was a little too much. It's okay. Evaporates pretty quickly. It doesn't like pool. Yeah, I can feel it loosening up quite a bit, which is nice. Which is obviously what we're trying to attempt here. Let's do a little bit in there. I'm just doing a little tiny dab. It doesn't have, you don't need a lot in there. It's just enough to kind of help get things moving. The other thing I'm going to do is, just because I can see it down there, oh, it's loose, but there's just a little solder ball. I don't think that's from me. I think that was just when I was loosening everything up, but. All right. There is that. Now, I can only imagine what we're going to see on the inside of this, but same thing. So I'm taking my screws out in order, just so I know where they're coming from. Yeah, that's nice and corroded, but it doesn't look bad. Oh, holy, I forgot about that plate. So on the inside of the plate, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to see that. There's actually, oh yeah, you can see that. But the lead or the ground lug on this switch right here is actually on this ring that goes around the cavity of the toggle switch. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and not want to get in there. The connections actually look pretty good. They don't look bad. But you can see just a little bit of moisture and stuff in there, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of just a little bit of love. We'll spray it from the top side too, and we'll try and see if we can get that moving. It was working, it was just a little intermittent, and that's typically because it's, yeah, there's just stuff on the leads. So when you're trying to, or on your contacts. Same thing with your toggle switch, just kind of without cleaning or whatever. If you're having like static issues with it, you can just do this. And it, again, you can feel, I can feel that it's loosened up quite a bit. So, all right, let's see what happened. I'm gonna unmute this. This is actually kind of cool. Static. Tones work. That pot is a little dangerously loose though. I don't like that. Nice. We have successfully fixed all of the issues on this Les Pauls. What was the one I was talking about? This one. Oh, it's not going anywhere. I don't think I actually tightened it on the top here. Cool. Well, I'm going to turn the soldering iron off. I'm going to turn the soldering iron off for now, just because I'm going to be able to put this guitar all back. So yeah, this one has actually been, like I said, this one's actually been done. I've already done the setup on it, cleaned it up quite a bit. I don't think I even took a before photo. And then for me personally, when I'm cleaning it up, this is totally off topic as far as the electronics go, but for me, when I'm actually doing wiring, when I'm doing a setup, I polish the guitar. Now that's part of the service of what I'm providing, but it's also just kind of, it's nice to see. You just have a nice clean guitar. You're paying for a service and it should be done correctly in my opinion. But obviously there's a time where, like, this is a vintage guitar, obviously it's pretty beat. You can see all the character that's on the back of it. I'm not going to go to my fullest extent of polishing all of the frets, for example, when the rest of the guitar isn't in tip-top shape. So it's kind of that double-edged sword where you have to, or a fine balancing act rather, it's probably a little bit more appropriate, to make sure that you're doing everything correctly so that we don't have any, you're not kind of causing any upset people, or that's kind of the opposite of what we're trying to accomplish in this realm. So put on this totally useless shielding plate. That's the concept of what this is for. It also would be grounding because the bottom plate is grounding, and then so this is like a shielded cavity, really, is what this is attempting to do. I don't find these to be totally successful, but not my guitar. Okay, so there's that, and then we got the plate going on top of that. This one this way. And this one here. Is always my favorite part. Never gets old. Well, it does. I shouldn't say that. It certainly does get old. But as far as finishing the guitar up, it feels pretty good. All right, cool. So there it is, and we've got our knobs that we can put back on. You don't want to fit there. All right, cool, makes sense. Why would you? That's not even the one that we replaced yet. You guys are supposed to go here. Sometime. Oh, yeah, it feels a little bit better there. How do you work here? Are you happy here? Yep. Okay. Okay, that's cool. All right. I'll take a step back. I'll let you do your thing. Oh yeah. Okay. There we go. 4 knobs on. Great. Awesome. We're done. Feels like a done guitar. Okay. So that is that. We can. I'll jack it up. Use our handy dandy volume knob. The song's in A. So it's always one of my. I do that all the time. Do you ever do that? Being a musician, and you hear a note and I'm always harmonizing with it. Like when I'm shaving, I'm always doing the harmony of. Drives my family crazy. I think it's hilarious. Okay, you want to hear this sweet line 6 tone? Let's check this out. Okay, so you have and that's really all we're looking for. So of course you can't see that when I'm doing that off the bench, but when you're I'm in the neck, making sure that the neck volume works top to bottom. Tone. Same thing with the bridge. So all of our static went away, all of our scratching went away. Cool. That is I think that's a done deal here. Yeah. Cool. That is all done. There we go. Okay, I have to go wash my hands. Alright, I'm still here. I'm just switching this over, getting this guitar off the bench. We'll grab the next one here. See what's going on with that one. Okay, so go under here. Actually, I gotta do the truss rod real quick. Just kidding. There we go. Now, grab this. K-pot. Do these. All right. So here is the next one, and real quick before I go crazy into this, there we go. Really quickly before I do anything, I just got to go into my billing software and write down all of the stuff. This one here. I like to write down all the specs when I take the guitar out of the case. So this is fresh out of the case. This is how I got it. And we are doing a setup and other things to it, and I record all that as I take it in, but we actually have to change all of the electronics in this one. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'll do the setup later, but I do replace all of these, or I do write all this stuff down when I take it in, and that way when someone says, hey, lower the action, raise the action, I actually know where it was when I got it, versus when I take it all off and I want, oh shoot. So that's what I do. So when I slide a guitar in, it's, yeah, I just basically measure I don't adjust anything, I don't look at anything. Holy man, that is low. Okay, but I just measure where it's at. In this case, it's at 2/64, which is very low. And we check tuning, even though it's going to be an E standard. But again, it's one of those things where I think it's an E standard, but it actually was an E flat, or it was in double drop D, or whatever. And now all of a sudden, that all pulls on the guitar differently. So I would rather do all of this stuff now rather than having to guess down the line. Or worse, guess, give it back to the client. And then they're like, yo, what did you do? You made it worse or whatever. Because that's also not ideal. We got 10 to 46. There we go. All right, so this one we have a box of parts. We're going back to stock on this one, and all the parts are going back to the old seller. So we'll be taking all this stuff out, so we can take the knobs off, for example, and also we'll see what joins us on the inside, because we might luck out. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't think I can even do this, because I don't think I have any push-pulls on me. Still waiting for my order to come in. I've been waiting for a while for it. This is one of my favorite little tricks. So you can grab a rag, like a thin rag, and put it underneath the pot, kind of wrap it around, and just pull straight up. Hypothetically. There we go. And then the knob will just come right off. And it comes off straight. You're not damaging it. You're not using screwdrivers. So obviously that would be the first thing. Oh, I can't get my fingers under it, so you grab a flathead and you start doing it. As you can see, this is a beautiful guitar. It's in fantastic shape. The last thing I want to do is take a screwdriver to that. So this is a really easy tip. We can just take the rag, go underneath the knob, go all the way around. We're not going to mar it up. Pull straight up. And now it comes off, and we have no issues. Perfect. So here's Jeff from Strumwood Guitars. Jeff from Strumwood Guitars here with a quick tip. So if you're taking a volume pot knob off and it's stuck, you don't want to put any sort of plier or tool under there like a screwdriver. You can actually just take a thin rag, go underneath the edge, wrap it around, pull it straight up, and it'll come right off. No damage. You're good to go. Have a good day. All right, so those have come off, which is neat. Yeah, we'll keep it there for now. Cool. Now we can take the strings off. Actually, before I even get into this, let's just take a look at the back. And see, because if we have... see what the pots are, because I might have to modify this, and I don't feel like doing that right now. Okay, so yeah, you can see the grounding wire that's in this one. So that was kind of what I was referring to before. Again, it's kind of tricky to see with the reflections, but you can see that grounding wire that's going all the way around the outside of the pots. That's your kind of typical standard wiring job. In this case, I also know who did this, which is kind of fun, but he's a good friend of mine. But in any case, yeah, you can... Yeah, because all of this stuff is coming out, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's what I heard. So we're taking all of this out, going into it. I don't have any of these pots in stock. There isn't really much point in taking this all out. Well, that sucks. I do have these pots on order, though. I'm just kind of waiting for that to come in. So that's the CTS parts. So we'll just close that one right back up. The funny thing is, as I was kind of talking about the screw thing on the last guitar, I do that with absolutely every screw that I do in my house now. I don't have the ability of turning that off. So it's like, you know, if I'm taking the light switch panel off. But I don't think it's a bad thing per se. I'll just keep these knobs off because that's okay. I'll just throw these in the case for now. And we'll put that one aside. Okay, so on this one, we have a couple things going on. I believe we have a weird phased pickup. Strats are always the fun ones because you have to take all the strings off to take the pick guard off. So we'll go to our live down here. I'm really digging that. I'm really happy I did that. I know that sounds ridiculous, but you can hear that. Okay. So it basically sounds like that middle pickup is almost dead. So let's see what is going on. I'm just loosening the strings over here on the other end. Hopefully enough that I can put the pickguard out over it. And I'll just throw a capo on the first fret. I'll show you this. Actually, let's do that now. They're moving around on me. I'm not okay with it. Of course, I don't have a capo. All right. In theory, it was a good idea. I don't think I'm going to have to take them fully off. I'm just kind of loosening the tension on them enough that I can pull the strings up and hopefully just get the pickguard out. All right, let's see. Oh, it's going to be one of these ones where the pickguard is coming out under. Oh no, we got it. I was going to say right underneath the neck. When you're doing this, you always have to be careful on the all the electronics, because if they're coming out, especially the screws, if they're really long screws and you're pulling it out trying to get out of this cavity, there's a great chance you're gonna like scratch the side of the guitar. Even though yes, there's a pickguard covering it, but that's not cool. I always try and return the guitar back better than how I got it. All right. So, what the heck's going on here? Let's see. Come down here. Bring you down with me. Hello there. So I'm just going to snip these, or at least this one, so I can kind of follow what's going on here. Okay, so here's middle here. And I always like to I follow it all the way back to the switch. And I like to do that just to see if I'm running into, like if there's some sort of weird grounding issue, or there's exposed cable, or it's touching another cable, or whatever. Like all of that kind of stuff obviously is going to come into play What on earth is happening right here? So here's kind of my example. Oh, I see. It's a grounding washer that everything's connected to. That makes a little bit more sense. But that's chilling in there with like hot leads of pickups, actually. Yeah, I think we actually might be able to just clean these up and hope for the best. So we've got the 3 leads coming in off of this. That's these 3 white wires, and that's from our typical Strat wiring. So we've got our bridge, middle, and neck. So it goes in that way up here. So this front one is actually going to our neck. Yeah, it's like, wait, what? Yeah, so what we'll do is we will just take these off of everything, and we'll just rerun this. Sometimes that's just the easiest thing to do. I don't know if you can quite, I got a lot of moving pieces here now, but so I was just looking at this connection right here. So on this washer, and that is, that's where all the ground is connecting, which is fine. And it's connecting underneath, it's connecting to the screw that holds down the toggle switch, the 5-way blade. And it's connecting to the foils, so it's all grounding, so that's okay. However, that's just a huge blob of solder and a lot of loose, exposed, and broken ground leads. So what we're probably going to have to do is strip some more of this back. We got a lot of excess, so it's okay. Strip some more of this back and see if we can clean that up. We'll see. I'm going to actually take all the ground off of this and hope for the best. But in some cases, you're almost better off to just cut this clean, splice in new wire, and then we can run it to the pickup and stuff and kind of do it correctly. So hopefully we don't have to go that far, because again, it's one of those, oh, that's a really quick and easy thing. It might not be, so. Quick and easy, that is. It's okay though, I got nowhere else to go, I got nothing to do. I live for this stuff. Oh. Yeah, so all I'm going to do is just take out the leads here. We'll just take all of them out. And then we'll actually clean up these leads as well while we're right here. Oops. There we go. So that's cool. And then I don't know if I'm successfully going to be able to get that cleanly off, to be honest. warm this up and see what happens. If it comes off, great. If not, then it's become a little creative. But traditionally, when you're doing this, you actually would have a long run coming off of this. So you can do one of two things. You can normally there's actually two leads that come off of the pickup. That's obviously the cleanest thing. Because our two wires are connected, you kind of run out of options. So yeah, we can either remove the shielding altogether. In this case, we've got a braided cable, so that's the bare wire ground that's in there. You can also run two new leads right from the pickup, but I mean, like, you're just opening up more and more can of worms trying to fix, in this case, we're trying to fix one pickup. Because our middle pickup, we almost had no signal. So I'll show you how we can test continuity in a pickup in just a second. We have to take the ground off. It can't be connected to anything. And we'll see if we can actually get something coming off of this. Because I don't know what our best plan of action is at this moment. It's okay though. We'll figure it out. I have faith. I have faith that we will figure it out. So this one is going to be this one. Let's see if I can. Get it held. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, sorry, the lights are coming crazy off the tinfoil here. I'm gonna have to run new ground, I already know that, to this. Trying to quickly grab it, but that's a silly idea. I'm actually looking for just my ground nose. Honestly, I have more success with these types of issues by just taking all the cables off, coming up with a nice clean connection, redoing it, and then generally solves my problems. It's actually crazy how often that's the case. Ow. Sprayed hot magma on me. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. And then not grab it because it's going to be super hot. But now we've saved, oh, whatever, fell in there, cool. We'll grab it later. Okay, so now let's see if we can just, I generally try for a second, trying to see if I can just heat this up and kind of pull the cables loose. And I don't worry about it all too much. Yeah, so all I'm doing is just warming up the solder, trying to pull all these apart. There we go, there's one. Now these two are about to come apart. It's not imperative, because at the end of the day I'm going to cut this off anyway. Or not the end of the day, in 2 minutes. But now we've got 3 leads from our pickups and then 1 from our bridge, so we're good to go. So I'm actually going to just snip these, get these out of here for now. I will put them back in when we're all done. Okay, so just for the time being, I'm going to turn my gun off. And what we will do is we're going to go to impedance. I'm going to just check the ohms on my multimeter here. So I'm just at the I'm at the 200K range, and then we'll just see what these pickups come out at. You'll get an interesting read if you have it. Oh, you can't see it there. Let's see. Actually, let's do that. There we go. You will actually get an interesting reading if you have this connected, like all the connected to ground and connected to your switch and stuff. So this is always best to test when they're off of the guitar. You're just getting the most accurate reading. So, and all we're doing is just measuring our 2 leads. So, bring them there. So right now, OL is saying it's overload, meaning that it's an open circuit. So all that means is that these 2 aren't connected. So if I touch my 2 probes together, it goes to 0. And now it's actually giving me a reading. So this is kind of, if you know nothing about a multimeter, this is just testing our electrical signals, and it's a great thing to use. Honestly, the biggest one that a lot of people use is the continuity. So it's on the little speaker icon, and now it just makes a sound when you're connecting. So when you're doing grounding, you can make sure that you have a connection going to anything, but you can measure all sorts of things with this. And in this case, we're going to measure our pickups. So all we want to do is, again, OL is saying that it's overloading, meaning that it's an open circuit. And if we connect 1 to 1 lead and then 1 to another lead, we should hopefully see a number. So this one is telling us it's a 6.6. That's what the DC resistance is of this neck pickup. Great. And I'm going to go to the bridge. These numbers aren't necessarily important. We just want to make sure that it has a reading. This is telling us that the in to the out is working. So we're coming from, basically, if we're looking at the pickup, you can see that there's 1 lead on one side and 1 going the other, and that is either end of the bobbin. That's how a pickup's wound, whatever. It goes around, 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 and with us measuring both ends and it giving us a number, we know that that pickup is good. So our bridge is 6.7, our neck is 6.6, which makes sense. You have a little bit hotter in the bridge, even though that's not much hotter. And we'll see if we have a reading on the middle. We may actually have a weak one or no signal at all. Hey, look at that. So we've got, yeah, I've got a signal on the probe, and that's still showing us as overload. So that means this pickup is dead. That's what that means. So now we can start troubleshooting our way into the guitar. So we can start on these leads at the back end of the pickup. And that's also overload, meaning that they are not connected to each other. Now, before we get any further doing this, for me personally, when this shows up on my bench, I'll spend about 10 minutes trying to see if I can decipher. I don't have a pickup winder here in the shop. I don't have any sort of ability to adjust that. And one of those things that we'll need to do is to take that out and take the cover off and see if we can kind of see it. The wraps that are on this are so fine. It's generally not something that's repairable. I have had success that, you know, the first couple of winds is actually where it was broken, pulled it out, reran it, and it worked. But that's about as far as I can go because I don't have the ability of wrapping that all over again or anything like that. So I do have other solutions. We do have other pickups that I can probably just throw in here for them and it'll work. But we need to now take this pickup out. So that's what we're going to do. Hey there, Jeff from Strumwood Guitars here with a quick tech tip, an easy way of testing some pickups. So we have a very faint and or dead middle pickup, but the easiest way is to actually measure the pickup. So we can pull it up. I've got my multimeter sitting here. Hey, it's Jeff from Strumwood Guitars here with a quick tech tip. So if you've got a faint or even dead pickup, but you're not too sure, the easiest thing to do is to grab your multimeter, and if you don't know anything about it, I'll show you. Jeff from Strumwood Guitars here, showing you the easiest way to see if you have a pickup that is out. And if you don't have a multimeter. Hey there, Jeff from Strumwood Guitars with a quick tech tip on the good way of seeing if you have a dead pickup. Obviously, we have taken the Strat pickguard off and we're just testing pickups. I have my multimeter and I'm set to the ohm, which is like the little impedance sign, and I've got it set up to 200K. And when I'm looking at the numbers in load, when I put my two probes together, it shows me 0 because I'm not measuring anything. So I know that my neck pickup works. I put my two probes on, and I have a reading of 6.6. I go to the middle, which I'm having issues with, and it's still showing as OL, meaning that internally is having issues. If it drops it in, I'm done.